So we'd been doing Gross Indecency, The Three Trials of Oscar Wilde in New York, and we were closing that play, and we had been reading a bunch of existing plays, trying to figure out what we would do next as a company, and we couldn't decide on anything. And at that moment, when we were closing, Matthew Shepard was murdered. And it became, I mean, those of us who are of this age remember that like 2 or 3 week period where it was just such a watershed moment in the culture. And so we took money that we had like an endowment from Gross Indecency, and we just said, let's go to Laramie and see if we can do something with this material. Just find out if a play could be written. After the first, we have this practice called moment work. It's a way we develop work using the elements of the stage and text together. And so we came back from that first trip, and we did a 2-week workshop at the Atlantic Theater Company where we did moment work, and then we just presented to like the kind of, it was a pretty amazing crowd of people that were there. Like Tony Kushner was there, and like a lot of people were there, and we just shared material that we developed, kind of like, what do you think? And there was like just such a mandate, because it was just a response to the people of Laramie and to these voices, and people were like, you have to write this play. So that was kind of the moment where we were like, okay. But initially it was really just an exploration of whether we could do it or not.
Yeah.
Immediately after, as is kind of depicted in the play, the media came in and just shut everybody down, but everyone was still like, they were shell-shocked from not only from the event, but then from the way the media behaved. And then we didn't really know what we were doing, right? And so we came in like right after the media sort of left, and we were like, record button. And so I think that we didn't see, and we were also willing to just sit there and listen for 2-3 hours. Like, we didn't have an agenda. It was more like a listening project. I mean, listening onto tape recorders. And so I think, and then word got around that these kind of clueless theater people were like coming and talking to people. People just kind of like said, oh, and then you should talk to this person, and then you should talk to this person. So it sort of unfolded naturally. And they did, like Rebecca Illiker says, they really needed to talk. It was a horrible trauma for them twice, like a double trauma for them. It's so funny. We wrote the play by committee, and I fought really hard at the end with my group to get Jonas Soneker's line in there about they haven't passed any legislation. And I feel like, again, that's really resonant to me, just because the world is slow to change, and I feel like it's really sad to me, but it feels more and more like this play is as germane and pertinent now as it was 25 years ago. And Jonas had it right. It's like more needs to happen, and so that's why I'm really grateful to you all for doing the work. We fought. There was a lot of blood on the floor. Everybody. We all had our people too, right? So your particular transcripts and your particular interviews, and you become really connected to those people, and their stories seem more important to you because they're the stories that you know, and then somebody else in the company knows other stories. So yeah, we were very passionate. We were a lot younger too. I don't think I had that kind of fight. But at the time, it was like we fought pretty hard about it. And we've often said there's material in those interviews for hundreds of plays, And I just always want to acknowledge Stephen Belver's work, because most of his interviews were with the perpetrators' community and families, and that ended up not really being the play we were writing. I mean, there's little pieces of that, but it was just like a mammoth amount of work that he did, and it was incredible interview material, and that would have been another equally compelling play. But I like to acknowledge his work, because a lot of his work, he did a lot of the writing for the play too, but a lot of his interview work didn't actually get represented in the play. There were many things that I know belonged to the play that weren't allowed to be put in by my colleagues. Judy Shepard and Dennis Shepard, and also Rob Dupree, they are responsible for the legislation, the anti-hate crime legislation that exists in this country. You know, Rob Dupree was this like homophobic sheriff's officer, and he encountered this experience, and he was so changed by it that he became like, he sat in front of Janet Reno. He advocated for the James Byrd Jr. and Matthew Shepard hate crimes legislation for 8 years after this event until it happened. I mean, and Judy and Dennis, of course, just are incredible. Like the amount of effort and energy they, and it's just so stunning to me that they, like I listened to Dennis Shepard and saying what would he have become, and it's like he became so much, and it's so much because of Dennis and Judy and the Matthew Shepard Foundation and all that work. But he's become a lot, So I mean, and this is what we always tell companies who do the production as well, is like, you don't play Greg Parati, you play yourself, right? As the company member, it's whatever your neutral is. That's kind of your base that the characters come out of, and then you make decisions about, vocal and gestural decisions about like how to clarify for the audience how the story unfolds and who this person is that's talking now. The worldviews that aren't mine, that are so eloquently articulated in the play, I think are just like they still blow my mind. Like that line for me is like stunning. Like, God's hatred is pure. Like, where do you come up with that theology? It's powerful. Like, our role in Laramie was to listen to people's perspective. We did it in Laramie. We performed the play in Laramie. Those folks all came, and they all liked the show, because they felt like they were accurately and clearly represented, right? But they were like, yeah, that was great. We did a weekend of performances in Laramie, and we did it actually during the week of the high school theater competition. And so on the Friday night, we had all of these high school students from all over Wyoming. There's a moment where Rulon Stacy says Matthew Shepard dies, and he died, and he has the little breakdown. The way that we staged that was, it was like with a live video camera, and I was facing with my back to the audience, and the video camera was like filming me, and I was projected like as if on TV worldwide kind of thing. So I had the audience behind me, and I had that little breakdown in the, where he says, and I broke down on national television, and I said Matthew Shepard died, and I had the little breakdown. The entire audience of kids from all over Wyoming started wailing, like literally wailing. And like my company, who's all pretending to be media in front of me, were like all just lost it, and then I lost it, and we literally as a community cried for like 5 minutes, and then we just pulled ourselves together and went on with the show. And it was like Greek theater. It was like, that's what Greek theater was, right? It was for communities to process their experience, in these artistic forms. And it's like the pinnacle of my dramatic life. Like it was the best moment I've ever had. I mean, best isn't quite the right word.
Right.
Yeah, most profound. Yeah. Well, I just want to say I've seen the production a few times. It was a beautiful production. Congratulations so much. I was incredibly moved by your work, and just congratulations. It was really like, let's spin more around. I didn't say it explicitly, but the direction